I would like to welcome the Organization for Latin American Unity to our presentation today. With this presentation, we will hopefully show you why our economic development plan for El Salvador should receive the $1 billion grant. The 4 points our plan will be focusing on are government and social infrastructure, education, agriculture and the economy, and natural resources and the energy sector.
This section will discuss the government and social issues that plague El Salvador. The El Salvadorian government has a lot of problems, but we believe it is most effective if two issues are addressed and fixed. The issues are security and the judicial system. What contributes largely to this issue of security is the enormous inequality and high poverty levels. These conditions have helped gangs such as MS-13 and 18th Street flourish. The judicial system, containing the police force and the courts, is hampered by corruption, lack of funding, etc. Our plan is to front on address the corruption and lack of accountability. We believe this will build a more dependable security force for El Salvadorian citizens.
There are various problems with the education system in El Salvador. The quality of education is subpar. The average ratio of students to teachers is almost 30 to 1, and roughly 20% of the population over the age of 10 is illiterate. Also, there are not enough schools in rural areas. There are high rates of truancy due to children staying at home to work and support their families, as many rural area families are below the poverty line. Even worse, urban children are dropping out of school to join gangs. On top of all this, parents cannot afford to send their children to school, both because there is a fee imposed by the government and because it is more profitable in the short term for children to begin working at a young age. To address these issues, we are proposing the following solutions. Using the grant money we would receive, we would hire more qualified teachers, specifically ones that can teach English, as language skills are imperative to compete in a global economy. We would also build more primary and secondary schools in rural areas to make education more available to children. Once schools have been built and staffed, we would use grant money to fund extracurricular activities such as sports and youth groups to foster a sense of community. This would give children an incentive to stay in school and lower levels of truancy. We would also eliminate the fee for children to attend school, making it more affordable for lower-income families.
Historically, El Salvador has been a nation that was once self-sufficient. As the years progressed, however, land ownership began to favor the elite, and poor peasant farmers did not have enough arable land. As the population expanded, this caused a turn to industry and crop importation. This caused an economic deficit due to import dependence and lack of self-sufficient farming. We propose an agency similar to the USDA that will be called the ESDA, known as the El Salvador Department of Agriculture. And this is to address farming issues because El Salvador currently lacks a federal agency to oversee farming and food production. In the past, the government intervened by forming cooperatives with elite landowners and peasant farmers. However, this failed to produce any crops and to sustain the nation, and the government had to pay compensation to the elite landowners. With the ESDA, and avoid problems like this. We will eliminate any unnecessary spending by the government by having the ESDA build on what the government originally started with land reform, with cooperatives in the 1980s. In addition, the Commodity Credit Corporation will be created alongside the ESDA to help protect farmers and croppers through necessary spending, buying, or lending. And overall, the import sector dependence will decline and the export sector will thrive by having food grown directly at home.
The quality of living in El Salvador is declining due to some factors such as water, energy sources, and structure. Water is a very important natural resource in El Salvador, and their main source of water is groundwater. There are many cities throughout the country that contain surface and groundwater sources. However, groundwater in the north-central mountains is becoming less plentiful, which indicates that the clean sources of groundwater will not last forever. Although surface water is abundant, the majority of it is contaminated from industrial waste, and even shallow aquifers become contaminated from waste disposal. Even though there are ample water sources, rural communities are still left on their own to construct their own water systems that typically last no longer than 5 years. Waterborne diseases are a huge concern since people are still using contaminated surface water, and these diseases are the main cause of infant mortality. Some proposed solutions to fix these issues is to make industrial and commercial improvements to reduce water use. For example, a sugarcane processing plant that used 10,000 gallons of water per minute introduced a recirculation system to significantly reduce their water withdrawal. Improvements such as this one need to be put into practice in other plants as well. Also, the laws that are already in place for proper effluent treatment needs to be enforced, and fines for those who violate the laws. In order to avoid facing the issue of no clean water, a program for large-scale groundwater exploration needs to begin. Water has another important aspect in El Salvador, and that's hydropower. The two most abundant energy sources in the country are hydropower and geothermal energy. There are no reserves of coal, oil, or natural gas, which are all imported. Hydropower provides 400 megawatts of energy, which is about 60% of the country's total energy capacity. There are already 3 reservoirs that collect rain during the rainy season in order to provide hydropower during the dry season. However, the water is getting contaminated from domestic industrial waste and as well as sediment from deforestation, which limits its capacity. Therefore, some changes need to be made. There needs to be implementation of sanitation and waste disposal codes and laws, as well as incentives for planting and preserving trees in order to stop sediment from polluting the reservoirs. Also, more reservoirs need to be created to provide for the growing population and to be utilized in rural areas where water systems are lacking. In order to stop relying on the importation of fuel and oil, the country needs to explore other energy options in place of those resources.